Introducing the remarkable archetype, the dangerous gentleman. With a demeanor that commands respect and a hint of potency, he embodies strength tempered by virtue. Though his capabilities could veer towards danger, he channels his power for noble causes, serving others and safeguarding those in need. Rooted in a profound love for both God and humanity, he navigates life with discipline and purpose. In his presence, one witnesses the harmonious blend of power and benevolence, a testament to the true essence of masculinity. Step into the world of the dangerous gentleman, where strength is wielded for righteousness, and discover a captivating embodiment of honor and valor.
Welcome to the Dangerous Gentleman podcast. Yes, I am the Dangerous Gentleman. No, I did not give myself that nickname, but I certainly did earn it. So we're trying something a little different today. This is our first interview podcast of the Dangerous Gentleman, and we're talking today with Mr. Tate Kerkhoff, also known as the Man Montana.
Yeah.
So real quick, how did you, of all people, get to call yourself the Man Montana?
Well, honestly, Andrew, I was up one night. I just woke up and I was thinking about hey, I've been in corporate America my whole career, 20 plus years. I have seen kind of the damage that has been done, not only to men, to women as well, but just the lack of leadership, right? In what's going on in a world today. I'd moved to Montana back in 2020, and I just was thinking there's got to be something we can do to help people regain the confidence that they need to be leaders in the world, leaders at home, leaders at work, leaders with their kids. And having gone through a couple men's courses, men's work, I know you and I chatted a little bit about men's groups, doing things like that. It just kind of came to me, Man Montana. And it was what do men want to be like? Do they want to be, not that there's other great areas in the world, Wyoming, Idaho, you're in Washington, there's a lot of great places. Just Man Montana sounded like the bare bones of America, so I just came up with it and started doing it a little bit, and here we are.
I like it because there is a certain mystique about Montana, and just based on you look like with the beard, the Man Montana, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of John Denver.
Yeah.
His music, and so he has several songs about Montana.
If you haven't been to Montana, and I mean, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Washington, there's something about the land, man. It speaks to you. It tells you, exactly why we're here. I've lived in 7 states, and this place, there's something special about it for sure.
I've driven through it.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to drive through. If you're going from east to west or west to east, it takes a good part of a day, it seemed like.
12, 13 hours, man.
Yeah, I think we drove through there in the middle of the night. So we didn't see much. I believe there was a snowstorm going on at the time. So it was kind of hairy, but we were on an old city bus, and most everyone was asleep. But it was that night, it was my job to keep the driver awake. So with the snow coming in the front, it can get rather hypnotic when you're driving it like that.
There's not a lot out there in a couple spots. You're far from anything that's going to help you. And, the gamut of Montana, you get mountains, you get golden fields, you get lakes, rivers. I mean, it's really pretty special, in my opinion.
I'd like to spend some more time there one of these days.
Come up.
Yeah, we'll hang out sometime. So where did you live before Montana, and what got you to move to Montana?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Minnesota. So my dad's family was farm family, Southwest Minnesota. Dad was a car salesman, so we didn't farm, but that whole upbringing was very prevalent in my house. Catholic, Midwestern, German, we all ate dinner at the same time. We prayed before dinner, those types of things. I've got 2 brothers and a sister. So I grew up very Midwestern, conservative, church every Sunday kind of thing.
Yep.
I went to college. I was a basketball player, so I actually played a little college basketball. Nothing crazy, nothing big. But it did teach me a lot about, leadership and playing with others and team oriented. Any kids who are going up in high school, and I definitely recommend and encourage any type of team sport. It really teaches you a lot about yourself, people.
Yep.
parents out there who have children, get them into something that they learn a lot about other people and each other and themselves when they have to like interact in a team environment. So it taught me a lot. Out of college, actually didn't graduate college. I was kind of one of those, I never excelled at school. I was never into school. I mean, I liked certain things about school, but it just, and I'm not going to blame, I feel like I'm a product of the education system.
That tells me a lot based on today's system. Yeah.
Never being challenged, C's get degrees kind of thing. And my parents, I love my parents, but they never really were like, is your homework done? Things got done, right? We went to school, we graduated, whatever.
Yeah.
College, I transferred a couple times because of basketball and being homesick or whatever you want to call it. So after college, I got into the bar and restaurant industry. I started working in a bar downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota. So that was kind of where I started getting into managing people. I moved a couple times for them. I was in Milwaukee, I was in Illinois, I was back in Milwaukee, I was back in Minneapolis. I moved around, got involved with a consulting company for a little bit. And in 2013, I moved to Las Vegas. I'd gone through a divorce, so I'd already experienced that before 30. I had already been through a divorce. I had moved around a couple times. So I was starting to gain like knowledge of different areas in the country and how people were managed and how people worked. And honestly, my boss in the consulting company was probably one of my best mentors. He really guided me in ways that nobody ever did in life. And my dad was a solid, he still is. My dad's probably my biggest influence, obviously. He's a great dude. But my boss at the moment, he was very, in my face about how to lead, how to manage the right way too. It wasn't a numbers thing with him. It was a people thing with him. I remember I was going through my divorce. He's like, what do you need? Do you need a place to stay? Do you need a car? Do you need money? He was that type of guy. And
that's a good man to have in your corner.
Yeah. And that really, the trajectory of my career changed right there. Cause I was like, if that guy's willing to do that for me and I'm just an employee, so it really guided me. Kind of how I started to manage people and how I started to lead people was the same way. Like, what can I do for you? We're in the people business. I think that's how it should be in the world. It should be a people first, people centric. We should be encouraging kindness as much as we should be encouraging the bottom line, which we really get caught up in the bottom line.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, I was in Vegas. I had met my son's mom. We got pregnant. We had my son. And then 2020 happened.
That's all you need to say.
Yeah, I was working for a restaurant company. We had opened 8 restaurants in 14 months. It was a startup company. It was another great learning experience for me. 0 to 160 employees in 14 months, really fast. Vegas is the hospitality capital of the world, in my opinion. Vegas was I really grew up in the corporate world in Vegas. I sat in boardrooms with some of the biggest employers in Nevada, MGM, Golden Entertainment. I really grew up in kind of how business works in Vegas. Vegas will make or break you. It's interesting work climate. So anyways, I was running 8 restaurants, 150, 160 employees. The world ends.
Yeah.
All of our restaurants close. I've got a 3-year-old son at home. And I'm like, what is going to happen here? And in Las Vegas specifically, unemployment was something like 30 or 40%. Like
it's all hospitality.
Yeah. Every neighbor I had was at home. I honestly, come June, May of that year, I got in my Jeep with my son and we drove all over the country. We did 4 or 5 road trips. I put probably 35,000 miles on the car that summer. We visited national parks. We went home to visit my parents. And somewhere along the way, I was thinking I probably should get my kid out of the big city. I was thinking, didn't want to raise them in that kind of environment. People were masking their kids. You know how it was, man.
I do.
It was just not a good environment. And I never wanted my kid to think that was okay.
Yeah. Thank God you weren't in Minneapolis at the time.
Yeah. I mean, my parents
went off.
Yeah, my parents are just outside of Minneapolis. And I mean, growing up in Minnesota was a great place to grow up. I lived in one of the best places, I think, in the country to live outside of Minneapolis. It was like a cute little community, 5,000, 6,000 people. I graduated with 130 people. We all knew each other. it was really like there was nothing really bad about my upbringing when it came to friends and, you know, not getting in a lot of trouble, things like that. But Minneapolis has changed night and day from what it was when I grew up. So yeah, we drove around and I started to kind of prod my son's mom, like, hey, what do you think about raising our kids somewhere else? And her and I, we don't always see eye to eye. So it's a tougher conversation that I had to have about getting our son to some other place. And I came up to Northwest Montana a couple times and I just asked her, I'm like, just go visit, tell me what you think. Really like to try to move up there. And she agreed. So I put my house on the market in October of 2020, and by November I was up here. Sold all my stuff. I didn't even have a job. I took a job, I think, I put windows in for about 6 months for like $17 an hour. Yeah. I just wanted to change. I wanted to I think everybody was navigating that summer. Like, what the hell's going on, dude? Like, what are we doing? And that was just how I thought to navigate it. So probably one of the best decisions I made, though.
Yeah, no, my business tanked at the time. It went pretty far south. I was barely scraping by. Thank God I had a reasonable place to rent, and I had just paid off my car, so I didn't have a car payment. But yeah, the world was just kind of crazy at the time. I didn't move, but I thought about it.
Did it make you resentful? Like, did it make you resentful at all? Of like, you probably knew, like, this is just a load of shit, right? This is like, what are we doing?
It didn't take me long.
Yeah.
Like with most of the people, with a lot of people I knew, it's like the first couple of weeks, you're like, I wonder if there is anything to this or not. I'm going to wear a mask just to be safe, and I'm going to kind of follow what they're saying. And I did that for about 2 weeks, and then I was like, it's a bunch of horse pucky. I don't need to do this anymore. And I found every excuse to get out of my house. We were only supposed to leave under emergency situations. Well, I lived in a studio apartment, so everything was getting a cup of coffee this is an urgent situation. And I would walk 2 miles to go get a cup of coffee just to get out of my studio apartment on a Saturday. And it was like, pretty soon the mask was off, and I would wear it when I was in my office with patients. Sometimes if I walked in and the patient was wearing a mask, I would put it on. If the patient was okay with not, and then I would be like, then I just didn't do it anymore. But yeah, life got really weird at the time. And I'm glad that there were enough people like me, like you, like your family, and like my friends who kept our heads screwed on straight. We're able to kind of push through all that.
It divided my family. I haven't talked to my brothers in 3 years. It's been divisive I know I have other acquaintances, same situation. It was a big divisive thing. And I probably got a little too vocal with my family just because it was I lost my job, dude. My lifeline is gone. I was upset. I was like, I just lost my career. I had thought I lost all my career. We didn't know when it was coming back. And it was, I was angry for a little while there. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, same. When you moved to Montana, did you already have the beard, or did the beard come with Montana?
I started growing it 2018. So 2020 was probably like right here. I just got it trimmed yesterday. I keep it I could probably have it down, but
yeah, this is what I got, and I work with what I got.
I have your hair too.
Same. That was 2022. My hair was so thin, and I was having to get my hair cut every 3 weeks, and it became almost impossible to get a haircut during 2020. And so I was like, and I have a twin. I have an identical twin brother, and he cut his hair off first. And I was like, if he can do it, I can do it too. So then it was just like, and I haven't looked back since. And the beard and the bald and the right kind of facial hair, chicks dig it.
Yeah.
And then I lost 50 pounds, 60 pounds. Then I could really pull it off. Yeah.
That's no joke, dude. Nice work.
Yeah. I like to say that for most of my life, I was a fat, lazy piece of shit. And now I'm not anymore. So you're in Montana. You're obviously not still installing windows.
No.
So do you have a job outside of, or what do you do outside of your like online
Yeah.
presence?
Yeah, so I work a couple gigs. I'm kind of one of these guys who I decided somewhere along the way that I wasn't going to be the most like the 9 to 5er. I wasn't going to be the most employers expect their employees to stick to one. This is your job, and
Yeah.
as the world's been changing and we start to see the gig economy kicking in here, I've got a couple things that I do. I oversee a couple different districts, companies. One's in Southern California, one's in Montana. So I do. I basically have 2 full-time jobs, and then I do this as
Yeah.
this is what I want eventually to be the main source of income. Obviously, we've got some work to do here, but
Yeah.
I see the opportunity with. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like guys like Connor Beaton. I actually did a couple courses with Bernier Wild. Yeah, the type of men's group stuff that the world severely needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of my goal, is to get to the point where guys like you and me see this is what we need. We need dudes talking to each other, telling other guys it's okay to talk to each other, so that we can get back to men are supposed to be in this world for our families, is what I believe.
So I just want to talk about your journey a little bit, because that's kind of what I'm all about. I want to help people identify, where they came from, and like they are, to kind of redefine who they want to be. So you talked a little bit about like when you went through a divorce and that kind of thing. So was there a moment when you realized that your life was kind of off the rails?
Oh yeah. I've actually been through 2 divorces. Again, I think part of the product of I'm an 80s baby, 80s, 90s kid. We didn't have the distractions that the kids do now. I always tell my kids, I'm like, we rode our bike after school. We went to the baseball field after school. I mean,
Yep.
today it's just, and we don't do screens in our house or iPads in our house, but I see these kids with iPads and phones, and growing up was very like, it was very Midwestern. We played things like that. So along the way, when I started to see, and it was managing people, right? So, I've probably managed, I'm into the thousands now, and it's, employees that have worked for me or with me, however you want to say it. And just the trend of like not even be able to look people in the eye, not even be able to shake a hand, not being willing to stand up in front of a room to speak. Like we're really, we're really going down a slippery slope here with, how people are. I call it a confidence. We have a confidence epidemic in this world, really, country for sure.
But we're constantly beat down about it, because especially as men.
100%, 100%. I totally agree. And not like this is the thing. I get it that there's you don't want to be like, oh my God, woe is man. I'm not trying to be a victim at all, but there are definitely things set up in this society that have put us behind the 8 balls. And it's when you go through a divorce or a divorce with a child as a man, I don't want to say public enemy number one, but you've got a hill to climb, and child support and all this stuff that comes with it. I married my first wife young. We were young Midwest. She was like 22 or 3. So she was a great girl. I know we loved each other, but I think she woke up one day and was like, this isn't what I wanted to do. And it crushed me. I was totally like, oh my God, I had the lawnmower, the yard, the dogs, all the things. And that can really, for a man, when that gets taken away, it's just like, what's my purpose? What am I doing?
Yeah. For me, my ultimate goal was to get married and have kids and be a man and lead a family.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I don't have that. And I had to find my purpose other places. So sounds like you went through the same kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think the Man Montana thing, I'm big on purpose. I believe men, our purpose is completely to be the head of the household. We are here to protect, to provide. My wife now, I hope she would say it, but I know I'm in a relationship now that I've never felt more comfortable. She knows who I am. She knows how I provide. This is the house. This is where the roof is over the head. The food is on the table. The kids are in a private school. We're in a good spot. She is amazing. She is up at 3 o'clock in the morning cooking food. She's that type of woman, and I'm really fortunate for her. But I feel like you have to go through these things to get to where, your brain is operating in the right fashion. And the first divorce crushed me, man. It put me back. I thought life was over. I was like, what am I doing anymore? I thought we were going to have kids and a family. We had bought a house, all this stuff. But it really made me look inside to see who I really was. Because I was not a great guy back then. I was 29, 8, 7, something like that. And you're young, right? You're making dumb mistakes. You're doing dumb things. You're just not there. And that was a big eye opener for me. It was a rock bottom moment. And I've had a couple of them. We all do.
Yeah.
It also created, I don't know if it's the beast or whatever, of like, okay, I got to get back. And I remember when I was with my first wife, I was making pretty decent money. And then I wasn't. And then I got back to making decent money. And that's when I met my son's mom. And again, was feeling good about life. And then that didn't go well. And this was probably the tougher one because I have a child involved now. And
yeah,
I think the dad he sets the tone for the child's life. Not to say the mom's not important. I know the mother is just as integral. Like, I'm not saying mom's not important, but I do believe father is it's the cornerstone of the child's upbringing. Whether they're good, bad, ugly, or not there or there, it's always, where was dad?
There's a reason why prisons are full of fatherless men and not motherless men.
Right. And the stats are getting pretty astounding today.
Yeah.
It's like 1 in 4 kids without fathers it might even be more than that. It might be 1 in 3 they're in prison or they're doing drugs.
Yeah.
Or I know the stat of that there's more men living at home with their parents in their 30s and 40s now than ever before.
That's just such a sad indictment on our current state of affairs.
So yeah, these rock bottom moments for me, man, they were, not that I was perfect in self-awareness, because I don't think that I was. I was a blamer. I'm not going to lie. I blamed people for all my problems. Thankfully, my parents, they helped me out in a lot of situations. I'm very fortunate. I'm grateful for my parents. But it was a very woe was me moment in my life. But then 30, 35 came, my son came. As soon as my son came, it was like, okay, dude, you got to change your mentality here. You can't, you're not a victim, dude. It's nobody else's fault but your own. And honestly, once I met Tracy, my wife, she really challenged me. She was really like, dude, you can be better. You can do more. You're living in a basement. You're doing, proverbially living
in your parents' basement situation. Yeah.
Kind of like you have the capability to do all this stuff and you are just living small. And she really challenged me. And that's when I started to look into kind of the things that you and I are trying to do now for men.
Yeah.
I met Rainier. I did a course of his and it changed my life, honestly.
Yeah.
I would give that guy, anybody who's looking for groups or men's stuff, I would endorse Rainier Wild. I mean, he changed my life. I did an 8-week course with him. It was a group of 10 or 12 guys. He challenged us. He asked us tough questions. He made us do tough things. I remember he made me write a letter to my brother, who I hadn't spoken to.
Wow.
Which was powerful for me, man. It was like, you got to let go of what's holding you back and release whoever you're holding stuff against, so that because you carry that shit, it'll keep a dude locked up. So
one of my favorite sayings is, holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
That's my wife's favorite saying. It's a pretty powerful one. That man is drinking the poison and waiting for somebody else to die. And it's completely true. And I'm not a perfect dude. I still hold things, I actually just went home to my parents just celebrated their 50th anniversary, and we went to Minnesota and my brothers were there, and I was hoping to connect, but we just passed each other and it was what it was. And
yeah. I went through a season where I barely spoke with my family. I used to be a drug addict and alcoholic.
Huh.
And so I went through a season where I was not a good person at the time. And I am not surprised that my family didn't want to talk with me. But I've had 8 years now, almost 8 years, 7.5 years without alcohol or drugs. Yeah. It's a big part of my transformation. I learned a lot of lessons through the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. And so I think that's where I heard that saying about poison was in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. A big part of where I learned to be honest, and going through all those steps I learned a lot of lessons that way.
Really powerful, man. You have something you can give to people. Fortunately for me, I never got into drugs. College I drank, but I don't know what that's like, that addiction. So that's a big, you can help a lot of people. That's really powerful.
My demographic, if you want to use a marketing here, is I want guys whose lives were as off the rails as mine are, and who thought there was no way to build them back. Right. And I want to show them, hey, it's not going to be an easy fight, but it's a winnable fight. And so that's kind of what I wanted to dive into a little bit next. So how did you go about the process of rebuilding your own life? You said that you were living in your parents' basement and you met a woman who really challenged you, and then you went through this process with Rainier Wild. So what were the big aha, takeaway moments that you still carry with you from that experience?
Yeah, there's been a couple times. I remember one specifically, 2014. I was living in Las Vegas. This was before I met my son's mom. I'm 6'6" and I'm about 200 pounds. So I'm pretty rail thin.
Yeah.
So I moved to Vegas and I partied. I was out late. I was drinking. I think I weighed almost 240. I was eating pizza rolls and ramen. I was just, I was not, and coming from an athletic background, I'd always been in shape, but it was bad. And I actually hurt my back one day at work. I just it just kind of kinked. And I'm 20 or 31 years old. And I'm like, dude, you are not 65 years old. I looked in the mirror and I actually said to myself, you need to get your shit together. There's a couple things for me. If you can look yourself in the mirror and say, nice job, dude, that's a good feeling. Or if you look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, you need to get it together, you got to do something. So a couple months of getting my back together. And then I think it was May of 2014, I decided I was going to start running. And I was like, okay, so I ran a mile May 1st, 2014. It was 17 minutes, Andrew. It was it was so bad. I was breathing, the thing. But I made the commitment, and I don't know what, honestly, I don't know what made me keep doing it, to keep running.
Yeah.
And it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And by October, I was back down to 190. I was running 50, 60 miles a month, 60, 70 miles a month. I was, I started doing half marathons and trail. I'd started kind of lifting weights again. I was back in shape. You know how it is. If your body is doing what it's supposed to do, if you're eating the right foods, if you're exercising, you feel like you're on top of the world, right? You are physical fitness.
People think that fitness, so much of the time, they think it's about vanity or something like that. But for me, so much of my journey has been through physical fitness and lessons I've learned in the gym. And it has helped because I was the fat, lazy kid growing up. And I wasn't just fat and lazy on the outside. My brain and my emotions and everything was that fat, lazy kid. And so I blamed everything on everybody else. But then through going to the gym and started hitting CrossFit and doing powerlifting and starting to get in shape, I was it changed this more even than this, And so I'm very keen on when I work with people that we work on the physical side of things too.
Yeah, your body tells you everything, man. It's you in all sorts of ways, and I totally agree. So I took physical fitness as I started reading a couple books. I mentioned David Goggins earlier. I don't know if you've heard of him, but that guy.
Absolutely. Yep.
Not that I'm on his level, I'm not, but just knowing what the human body is capable of, seeing other people do remarkable things really motivated. And I don't like using the word motivated. It inspired me to gain some discipline and to really the days you don't want to get up, or the days you don't want to go to the gym, or the days you don't want to do the run. It changes your mind to I'm just going to do it, because you never regret a workout. You never regret.
But you do regret not doing a workout.
Exactly. So yeah, man, I got back into it, and then a buddy of mine, I think it was 2017, he was like, "Hey, do you want to do this? We're gonna do a challenge for December before the holidays." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." It was the 100 push-up, 100 sit-up a day thing, and we did it for December. And then he's like, "Do you want to keep going?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." We ended up doing it for, I think, up until 2020 before we like stopped keeping each other accountable.
Wow.
So
100 push-ups a day for 3 years.
yeah.
Dang.
And along the way, I trained for an Ironman. So that was another thing that really can teach you some discipline when you got to get up in the morning and do a 60-mile bike ride. And then in the afternoon, you got to run for 20 miles or whatever it might be. Or you got to swim in the cold lake for an hour and a half. Those are things that, it's really cool what your brain, like you said, it's all up here, man. You can tell yourself what you can do and you can do it. And so yeah, those are the types of things that now it's like, okay, now I know what my mind is capable of. And again, I'm not perfect. I have my moments where I want wine and I want a beer and I want to go eat chicken wings. My wife and I like to, we like to drive around and dive bars and things like that. And I went probably 3 or 4 years of super, like I didn't have a drop of alcohol. I was keto. And now it's about finding the balance. I've got 4 kids. I've got a beautiful wife. I want to enjoy life, but I also want to be disciplined and give the example to I have 3 boys and a girl. So I've got 3 men that I'm trying to inspire here. And I'm trying to inspire a little girl on what a man should be.
Yep.
We try to do the balance. My wife is she's 43 as well. Like she has a 6-pack, dude. She's crazy. So this is the type of mentality that we're trying to create in our house. And we both are like, why can't we help other people get this figured out so that we can create more people in the world that care about themselves, and that's what it is, right? We have to care about ourselves before we can get to that next point. So yeah, it's been a journey. I mean, there's a lot to it. There's been many moments of what am I doing or how am I doing it? I've lost jobs. So it's a lot of this, but that's life. And I think
life isn't like this.
Oh, no, it's not. And even at the best moments, something's going to kick you in the nuts. Like it's just going to come.
And the more you're prepared to just take an occasional kick in the nuts, the less you're going to whine and complain about it. You're like, oh, that's just part of life.
The quicker you get back.
Yep. How did you go from like, hey, I've radically transformed my life, I'm qualified to go help other people change their lives? How did you make the shift from, I know I want to help other people, because it's great. A lot of people do personal transformation. There's stories all over the internet of, I changed my life. How did you go from like, I have something to offer other than just myself and maybe my family, I want to help other people that do this?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm qualified.
Same.
I think so. I think the universe gives you what you give out, right? I'm not certain that whoever wants to listen to me can listen to me. Whoever wants to come along and whoever I can help, I can help. I just want to do my part. Because like you, I think you feel now a purpose of like, I've got this experience. I know what this is like. And I know there's people that need help. So I just want to do what I can. It's really not that I think that I'm any more special than the next guy everybody's got a story, right? Everybody's got their process or their upbringing or whatever. I just know that in having done work with dozens and dozens of men at this point, we're all cut from the same cloth. Dude, we all carry the same burdens. We all carry the same struggles. And yes, there might be nuances and some others are more, but in the grand scheme, we feel the weight of the world on our shoulders. And I think men just need to know that they're not alone. And I just want to do my part. I'm not trying to honestly, making money is cool, but I don't even care about that. I want guys to know that there's a place in this world for them. I read or I heard the other day that men don't feel needed anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Dating world kind
of. If women can do it, why do they need us?
Right. And the dating world suggests it, right? There's more single people in the world now. There's more, like I said before, more men are living at home with their parents. When we don't feel needed, it's a real, like, what am I doing here moment? And
Yeah.
I have,
it affects you on a physiological level. Your testosterone actually goes down when you don't have purpose. It's not the other way. It does work the other way around. I could get into the tinfoil hat of why our testosterone levels are tanking, but that's for another day. But like when you don't have purpose, when you're not working hard, when your head is not in the right space, it actually causes physiological changes in your body, including for men, decreased testosterone, which then just perpetuates the cycle of fat, lazy, out of shape, no purpose. Decreased testosterone makes you more fat, more lazy, less purpose. So it's just this lack of purpose.
And then who can blame women for wanting to do things for themselves because there's not a man to do it for them. I am on the tinfoil hat. I know this is by design. I know there's been a clear, concerted effort to destroy the family unit, to destroy the roles. I know that's a hot topic today, like gender roles. And I think that's why my house works. And not that I want my wife in the kitchen 45 hours a day. I don't. She's free to do what she wants, but she knows when we wake up in the morning, we do our things. We know what to do. And not that we've had our times, but we are such in a groove right now of Tracy does this, Tate does this. We are on the same page. It works. It's
almost like it was designed that way.
It's crazy, right?
By someone way smarter than us.
And there's no, oh my gosh, you're lesser of a person in this. There's nothing like that. Like, I adore her. I would die for her. I would do anything. And I feel like we both do anything for each other and for our kids. And that's why it works. And I completely agree with you. There is something going on in the world where they're trying to give men this notion that we don't have a purpose. We don't need to be needed. And again, it's not to say, women can do whatever they want. They can go work, they can do whatever. But there's also studies now that are showing when women are at work 90 hours a week, the children are growing up in a different fashion as well, too, right? They're not connected to mom like they should be. It's having an effect on where we're going. And
a way that someone put it that made a lot of sense to me is a woman can go work for either way. A woman is going to be going to work for another man, for a man. Why not have that be a man that loves her and adores her and cherishes her versus someone who's just trying to make a few bucks off of her working for him?
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. I didn't come up with it. I'm not going to take credit for it. I heard it somewhere, but it stuck with me when they said it. So
yeah. I know there's a lot of opportunities in the world for women. Think of the owner of In-N-Out. She's a brilliant mind who's created a brilliant product. I know that there's something to what's going on with how children are being raised and both parents working endlessly to pay off student loan debt and boat debt and things like that. And I think we made the decision in this house when we got together that yes, our jobs are important, our income is important, but it's not superseding our four walls. We put more time and effort into our house than we ever will any job. And I don't care what boss hears that. There's jobs out there. There's careers out there. There's things to do. You can't replace your family.
No. My mom's a school teacher and my dad is a medical doctor. And when they got together, they met in college and they made a deal that my mom would continue to work as a teacher while my dad went to medical school. And then once he got a job as a doctor, she was going to stop working and raise kids. And I think that's a beautiful way to do it because like my dad graduated medical school. Yeah, he had some debt, but he had less debt because my mom worked during that time. And then my parents, I have three brothers and a sister, so there's 5 of us. And so my parents, of course they made mistakes, but in that way, I think they did it the right way. And then my mom stayed home. And then once my youngest brother got to like 3rd or 4th grade, my mom went back to substitute teaching. So when she wanted to teach, she taught. And when she didn't want to, when she felt like she needed to stay home and do family stuff, then she had that choice. She had that option. And so, like, I'm not saying everybody can do that, but that's And my mom says one thing I will never regret is spending too much time with my kids.
Right? Yeah,
So,
I think I read the other day that once your kids are 12 years old, you've spent 70% of the time you're going to spend with them. Like, think about that, dude. You at 12,
wow.
you've already spent 70% of their life, like the time that you're going to spend with them in your life.
Because
And
after that, it just gets less and less. Yeah.
And the house, it's Christmas, it's Thanksgiving. And I think about my parents, and it's like, how many times are you going to see them before they're gone?
Yeah.
And I don't live in the same state. So we see them a couple times a year, but they're in their 70s. So what do we got? 6, 7, 8 more times? And that's crazy to me. It's,
Yeah.
So it's big in our family. We try to do gratitude at the dinner table with the kids. We try to teach them the importance of their brothers and sisters, because we know that at some point they're going to go in their own direction, which is what they're supposed to do. But we just want them to know that this is what's supposed to be the center, right? This is what's supposed to matter most.
And when you demonstrate that, it doesn't matter what you tell them. When you demonstrate it, they're going to learn more that way than any lesson that they're going to get that you stay with your mouth.
There's any new parents listening or watching, it's not what you say, it is what you do and how you do it.
Yeah. So now you've moved into wanting to coach other people. Kind of give me a 2 to 3 minute breakdown of the process that you kind of take men through, whatever process it is that you will take men through. Just give me your process.
Yeah. So I love to hear the excuses, why someone isn't where they want to be in their life. So for me, it's tell me about what's holding you back. And it could be anything from, well, my ex or my job or my boss, or I didn't get to be the starting core, whatever it is, dude. Like we all have the excuses, and they're great because they're, once the universe gives you the problem, it also gives you the solution. And so that's kind of the breakdown. And every guy's different. I don't pretend to treat everybody the same way, because I know that there's different scenarios and there's different, upbringings and things like that. But I feel like I am kind of that no bullshit kind of guy. And Rainier really helped me with that, because there was a genuineness about him, a softness about him. Big dude. And that's how I like to be, like big dude, beard, blah, like, yeah, we're going to go hunting and kill things, but this guy can hold space for me. He can see that I struggle with a lot of things. I understand most everybody's strife that they have with themselves. Most every dude who comes to me who's like, struggling at home with my wife, man, she doesn't talk to me. Like, I get it. I know what that's like. And I want them to be able to share that and get that out. But at the same time, we got to start to think of what the solutions to the problems are. So I'm big on putting it in their court. Like, okay, you've given me your list of excuses or whatever that looks like. Tell me how you're going to fix it. Tell me what you think you should do to fix it, or tell me how you can be a better guy for yourself so that you can fix it. And a lot of guys don't even look, and I was the same way. Like, I never thought it was me. It's not me. It's
everyone else.
Yeah. But when you do that and you flip the script and it's always you, because you are the one in control, man. You're the only, you make your decisions. You go where you go. You pick who you talk to. You pick who you date. You pick who you marry. You make the choices. So, yeah, I
call it radical responsibility.
Right. Another soapbox of accountability and responsibility. We don't teach accountability to anybody anymore, and it's a tough topic. It's tough to look at yourself and say, I'm not a great decision maker, or I drink too much, or I watch too much porn, or I'm cheating on my whatever it is. Like, to say it out loud, or to say like, hey man, I'm not contributing to my well-being. That's the first step for me. And once we get there, then we can start to build the building blocks. We got to get the foundation set. Then we can start to build the building blocks and go from there.
Yeah. Similarly, I help men identify like a set of words that they would use to describe their identity, who they are, and what the actions that back up that identity. And then once you're able to do that, then you can say, well, here's where you are now.
Right.
Now give me 3 words that you want people to describe you as, and what are the types of things that a person like that would do, and give very practical applications, because it has to. It's like you said, it has to start with recognizing how much of your life is under your control, which is greater than 95%. Like, we can't control the weather,
Yeah, that's
but right? We can respond how we respond to the weather, and we can't control. There are certain cultural things, but the thing that is under our control, and again, this is something I learned through Narcotics Anonymous, is it's we can't control what happens outside of us, but we can always control how we respond to those things. So in that sense, yes, close to 100% of it is under our control.
totally.
And one thing that drives me crazy is when people tell me, you make me feel this way.
Mm.
Because I can't make anyone feel any way. And they shouldn't be able to make me feel any way. Like, they could treat me like the biggest piece of shit in the world.
Right.
But how I feel about myself, that's under my control. Exactly like what you're talking about. Like, it's getting people to recognize, and that's a hard thing, especially for men, because deep down we want to take responsibility, but we've been trained to not take responsibility. And so now it feels like this foreign thing, right? We don't want to admit that we're weak. We don't want to admit that we have faults. But yet that is the biggest piece of the puzzle to solve our own ills and the ills of society, is people need to take responsibility for their own actions. So,
yeah, what's the swear word? Shame, like the shame behind. And yeah, I mean, there's moments in life where I think there's right time to feel shame, but there's like, if you're going to feel shameful for sneaking upstairs to watch porn, then maybe you need to change something about what it is that you're doing so you don't feel shame.
yeah.
And shame is another direction too. Like, this is another thing I try to focus on. Like, we're humans. We all make mistakes. We all have imperfections. We all are not perfect. There's no shame in admitting, I've been a drug addict. I've been an alcoholic. I cheated on my wife, whatever it is, but you can't get past it unless you acknowledge it or recognize that there is something that's going on. That's a big hurdle for men too, because there's a lot of men out there that don't want to admit, well, I don't have a problem. I don't do that. I've only messaged a couple, like whatever it is. They just can't admit that that's something that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. It's funny because the last podcast episode that I did was about overcoming shame, learning how to endure suffering, because suffering builds endurance, endurance builds character, and character builds hope, and hope overcomes shame. It starts with the idea of learning how to be okay with suffering, learning how to push through hard things and to grow from those things. And when you do that and you're like, oh, I just did something really difficult and really terrible, and I'm still here, I guess maybe I'm not such a bad person after all. And it starts to put that shame in its place.
Love that you're quoting the Bible. I mean, that's what God intended, right? You know, we're human, and that's a perfect example for anybody really to get like, hey, we can get past our imperfections, our shame, and once you do that, there is that hope. Like, I can really be this great person, or I can really be this great man, or whatever it is in the world. Just got to look past it.
Yeah. All right. So did you come up with your own process that you bring guys through, or did you kind of like take bits and pieces from other people?
I mean, it's kind of been a process that I've built. So I have a program I've been working on for a couple of years. I call it Unburdened. I kind of took bits and pieces of things that I've learned along the way. I try to be Tate-centric on like how I feel it should be communicated. You know, there you can find anything online. You can find a course online. You can find a guy online. I want it to be more of the like relatable, I guess, because there's a lot of coaches out there beat their chest, or I don't know. I think guys need more of like a down to earth, because I like to watch football. I like to go shoot guns. I like to be the man's man. And I think most guys do. I started creating this program, and I'm trying to decide how I'm going to release it, as far as like, I know there's programs out there that cost 7, 8, 10 grand.
Yeah.
You can also get $99 things out there. And I'm trying to make it so it's easy for a dude who, it's kind of like that first time guy who's like, he knows he's got to work on something, but he's not willing to. I mean, you can go spend $20,000 to go to retreats, right? There's programs out there for, guys to go fly to Austin or California and spend weeks with dudes. And I wanted something more like, okay, I know I might have an issue, something that's going to bridge them to the next spot. Cause that's what really worked for me when I did the $1,000 course or the $500 program. It really got me to think about what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, Unburdened it's a 12-week, it's kind of a soft, like, okay, it's a lot of journaling. There's some meditation. There's some exercise, meals. I'm big on, like, that's another thing too, is once I get to start working with someone, exercise and meals are probably just as important as anything else, if not more.
Yep.
Sleep.
Yep.
Sleep is a big, big thing. Guys do not understand what 8 hours a night can do for you.
Talk about testosterone.
Right? So there's a book that changed my life. It's called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew. Anyways, yeah, it explained how sleep is probably the most important thing in all of it. But yeah, so just trying to get guys to look at things a little differently. We all, when we have work and kids and wives and things to navigate, bills, I mean, especially today with how things, I mean, my Costco bill, dude, is like $700 every week. Like, it's crazy. And it's adding more and more pressure to people, not just men, but everybody, and men specifically, who have to provide. Like, so I just wanted to try to create something that kind of broke that barrier, per se, of, okay, I got to work on something. I'm not going to go spend 20 grand on a coach, but here's a program that either I can do by myself or I can pay a little extra and I'll help them through it. So it's called Unburdened. I'm almost done with it. I just want to finish it up so it's good. I'm trying to decide if I need to do more interacting with it. But it's a 12-week. It's kind of like, we're going to go through the problem and the solution. We're going to go through health and wellness, fitness, meals. We're going to talk about everything basically in a 12-week program. And hopefully by the end of the program, if they've stuck to it, they're going to say, okay, I need to do more, or I'm on the right path to getting to where I want to be as a man. It's purpose driven, right? It's purpose driven. Yep. We got to get men to feel purpose again. We got to get men to feel connected to themselves so that they can lead in the fashion that they're supposed to.
If every man in the country woke up tomorrow morning with a sense of purpose, the world would change overnight. If we all woke up tomorrow, by tomorrow night, the world would transform in 24 hours.
Completely agree.
Fortunately, unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight, and there's more to be gained and learned from going through the process. I tell people all the time, if I could have gotten and learned everything I learned without going through all the crap I went through, I don't know if I would trade it, because I don't think it would mean as much to me.
Right.
It would be an easy lesson that I would lose just as quickly as I gained it.
Right. So, well, you could have stayed a victim of it and stayed, or you made the choices you make. Again, this is a by design. We can get into, why men don't feel purpose. That's another long, long conversation, but we have a generations to fix. It is not you and me. It's not our ages or above us. It's everybody who is being taught and raised a certain way. And again, I'm not all doom and gloom. I know there's communities out there that support this. I know there are small towns, there are big cities that are making steps. This is where I believe community is the biggest thing. And that's why we have our kids in a Christian school. That's why we live in a small town. These are the things that we need to get back to so that we can get back to where we're supposed to be as a society versus going this direction that it's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that we could keep talking for a long time, but I think this is a pretty decent place to maybe stop episode 1. But one thing I want you to be able to do is plug your stuff. Like, where can people find you on Facebook, Instagram, social media? What kind of podcast? Just give us the the Man Montana, where we can find you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so Man Montana is Facebook. Tate Kerkhoff, TateKerkhoff is my Instagram. My wife and I do a podcast called Yeah Babe. It's where her and I basically go back and forth with sometimes we talk about couple stuff, sometimes we talk about conspiracy theories, sometimes we talk about kids. It's just, kind of our conversation. I am much like you. I'm getting my Man Montana podcast back. I want to get some guests lined up. I'd love to have you on.
Okay.
We're getting that started. I'm revamping the website a little bit. So yeah, manmontana.com will be up and at 'em here in a little bit. And then pretty much where I'm at.
We'll put all of your links.
Thank you.
We'll put all your links in the show notes. Please like, share, and subscribe the episode. And again, I am the Dangerous Gentleman. I've been talking to the Man Montana, Mr. Tate Kerkhoff. And so I hope you all tune in next time. Looking forward to more of these interviews. So we will talk to you all later.
Appreciate it, Andrew.
So if you like this content, please give it a rating, a review, and share it with your friends. Also, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I'm all about and what I can maybe do for you, check out my website at thedangerousgentleman.org. That's thedangerousgentleman.org. Thank you for listening.